Hi people, today we'll study about Python's classes and objects, right? Okay, so what are classes? Now classes are a collection of values and behavior. Now what are values? They are like member variables and behavior is member functions. Okay, so let's start with how to declare a class, how to write it. Okay, so let me take a class and the name of the class is ABC. Okay, then after that you put a colon and then tab. Okay, so in this now in C++ or Java we used to give variables or member variables, the data types, right? But in Python you don't need to do that. You can directly use the variables. Okay, so in this what happens if I'm taking a variable like a is equal to 5 or something, then at that time what will happen is, now if I'm taking a is equal to 5, what I can do is I can access this variable using an object. Now what is an object? Object is an instance of the class. Now let me take an object called O, which is equal to ABC and parenthesis. Now what is this? This is the default constructor of the class. Now with default constructor, the benefit is that you don't need to write them. Now default constructor or any constructor is used to allocate memory to the object. Okay, whatever the class has, and if you're creating an instance of the class, it will need some memory, right? So that is the job of a constructor, to allocate memory to the object. Now if I want to access the member variable, then what I'll do, I'll directly access it using the object like o dot a. Now what I'll do, I need to print it. So let's just print this, print o dot a. So I'm getting the value 5. Let me take some other variable, and here I'm getting the value 10. Okay, so now what is happening here is that every time I want to, I'm not going to use the same default parameter, right? So I need to give a default constructor. Instead of that, I might use parameterized constructor. So for that, let us just see how to write a parameterized constructor. Now, if you've studied Java, then you know that in Java, the constructor is the same as the class name. So in Java, what do you write? You directly write here like ABC and then bracket and then the parenthesis, this curly bracket start, and you continue. But in this, you don't write the constructor in the same way. What you do is def, it's like defining a function, okay? And the constructor name is underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Okay, so now what is this doing is, every time every class has the same name for a constructor, it's always init. Okay, so now here let me take a parameter self. Now you don't need to take self all the time, you can take any name, and then I'm taking two variables a and b. Now what I'll do, if I'll have to put the value or the parameters a and b into something else, right? So let me write self dot a is equal to a and self dot b is equal to b. Okay, so what is happening? What is the self dot a? Do you remember this keyword from Java? Now what is that? It shows that this dot a or self dot a is a member variable of the class ABC. What is this? This is just a parameter. Now if I'm talking about scope, then the parameter scope lies only within the function. So only within init, a and b are alive. After that, as soon as we exit the function, a and b die, right? So now if I have another function like show, in this if I want to display a and b, then it will not be possible. Why? Because a and b do not exist anymore. They are dead. As soon as you left the init or this function, it is gone. So now what we have to do, we have to display the self dot a and self dot b. Why? Because they are the member variables and they are alive throughout the scope of the class. So let us just display these two, self dot a comma self dot b. Okay, so now let me create an object here, print ABC I'm creating. Now I have to pass two parameters a comma b. So 5 comma 6 let me pass. Now what is this? You have to remember is, if you're passing two parameters here, then here it should be 3 parameters. Why? Because every time the self parameter is just there to tell that this is used to denote that the variable, or this is a member variable and not a parameter, right? So self will be an extra here. So if you see here, there are 3 parameters. So every time here you will have to pass 3 minus 1 or n minus 1. So here I'm passing 2 parameters. Now if I want to call the function show, so o dot show, so here I'm passing 0 parameters. So as you know, the number of parameters which we have here inside the class, it should be plus 1, right? So here I have to write self. I cannot leave it blank. See, let's see. If I'm leaving this blank, then I'm getting an error, right? Show takes 0 positional argument, but 1 was given. Which was that one? This is the self keyword, or it's not a keyword, it's just a variable. Let me, if I can change the name also. Let me just remove f. I'm writing it SEL. You can write your name also, it's not an issue. So if I'm writing, I have to change it everywhere. That's the only thing. So now it will see what name error am I getting now. Self is not defined. Where did I use self? Okay, here. See, this is an error. Okay, now it's gone. Okay, see, I can display the 5 and 6 values which were here. Okay, so this is how you write a basic class and use a parameterized constructor. Now let us see inheritance. What inheritance is? Okay. So this is my class. Now let me make a child class. Now in Java, you know that how we write a child class is we write class, then the class name, then extends, then the parent class names, right? Extends is the keyword, but here we don't have any keyword. Let me take XYZ as the child class, and we'll write the parent class's name inside parenthesis. So now this is inheritance is happening here. Now again, the child class must be having some kind of constructor, right? So let me take init. It's always the same name, no matter what the class is. In Java, we would write ABC parenthesis, here XYZ parenthesis, but this is not the case with Python. The constructor's name is always underscore underscore init underscore underscore. This is a fixed name. So let's just continue. Okay, so here I'm taking cell C and D. Okay, so now what I'm doing, from inside this constructor, let me not do anything. Let me keep pass. Pass means what? You want to count this as an iteration, or if you are writing anything, you don't want to do anything, but you want to execute that function. So this is a function. So if I don't want to do anything, I'll just write pass, because if I break or continue, then it will just skip that part, or it will break out of it, right? So I don't want to do that. I just want to ignore the internal statements and just go ahead. So let me keep it like this. Now if I'm making an object of this, so how I'll do, let me write ob equal to xyz. Now this is the object of the child class, right? So now here we have 2 variables, so let me write just 4 and 5. It's no use, I'm just using it for no reason. Now if I want to access the show function of ABC class, I can access it using the child class object. Now what is happening here? See, I'm getting an error. Why? Because XYZ has no attribute A. Now if I'm trying to display self.A and self.B, we don't have anything that allocated the value of A and B here. Why? Because I never called the init function of the constructor of the never call the constructor of the parent class, right? So what is the problem is, if I'm directly just trying to, let me write here hello world or something. Let me just comment this. If I'm writing hello or something, then it will work perfectly. Let's write hi. Okay, so here it is showing hi. See, using the child class object, I'm able to call the function or member function of the parent class, right? But I want to display variables and assign value to the parent class member variables. How to do that? Instead of pass, let me just call the parent class constructor. Okay, so abc dot underscore underscore init underscore underscore, then cell comma a comma, not a comma b, here we have c comma d. So what is happening here? This c and d will be what is the term called? Parameter passing will happen here, and c will go in a and d will go in b. So the value of a and b will now become the value of c and d. So this a will be allocated to assigned to the self dot a, and this b will go to cell dot b. Okay. Now if I call the show function, then what? 4 will be displayed here and 5 will be displayed here. So let's see. Yeah, okay, it's working. Fine. So this is one way of calling the parent class init, using the parent class name followed by a dot and then underscore underscore so on. There is another method which is the super function. Okay, now what is this super does it? Every time we are calling a super, it calls the init function of the immediate parent class. Now if I have more parent classes here and I want to call the init of them, then I can directly write the name, but if I'm writing super, it will call the immediate parent of this class. Okay, so which is the immediate parent? It is ABC. So if I'm calling ABC, then what is happening here? I will get an error. Why I'm getting an error? Because init takes 3 positional arguments, but 4 were given. How 4 were given? See, these 3 are going fine. Now there is another cell which is passing here. Now if you are writing super here, then there will be the like Java's this keyword that is getting passed here. Like when we are calling the function, if we are writing here 0 parameters, then here we are taking 0 plus 1, right? So here if we are sending 3 parameters, then here we need 3 plus 1, right? So whenever you are writing super, you reduce a parameter here. So now you will get the perfect answer. Okay, see here you are getting it. So only when you are writing the exact class name here, then only you get to write cell A and B, because it directly maps these two at that time. But when you are writing the super keyword, at that time it behaves like a normal function call. You're just calling the init function. So at that time you cannot do write a cell here, because it will be 4 positional arguments. Okay, so hope you understood this, and thanks for watching.